Social Services Minister Christian Porter says welfare spend is around $160 billion a year and predicts that, without further restraint, this could expand to $277 billion by 2026. Luckily for them, our neighbors just over the ditch have given us the blueprint for a major reform to Centrelink when they their investment model welfare system in 2012. If Australia adopts the Kiwi solution, it will drastically overhaul how people access benefits. And one thing's for certain, the government is planning to get a whole lot more personal about how you live your life. If you don't measure up, your Centrelink benefits, like carers and job seekers allowance, will be cut, and taking a holiday while on benefits will be a definite no-no. One of the first groups that could feel the winds of change are students. Speaking at the National Press Club on Tuesday, Social Services Minister Christian Porter released a new study on welfare and said the Centrelink system was a failure. For too many people in the system, money flows, nothing changes and lives are not improving. Social Security currently costs Australia $160 billion a year, the equivalent of 80% of the amount raised in income tax. Said Mr. Porter, by 2026 that figure could rise to $277 billion annually, while the lifetime cost of providing welfare benefits to just Australia's current population will cost $4.8 trillion. Across the country, 48% of households were paying no net tax, the minister said. The situation where you have half, and potentially more, households drawing from the system than contributing to it is like a snake eating its own tail. The current system was an example of intergenerational unfairness, he said, as tomorrow's taxpayers paid for their own welfare as well as paying back the debt of the current generation. There are three groups of welfare recipients who might want to look sharp, as they are the ones the government wants to focus on first. All eyes are on New Zealand and its controversial reforms that have netted Wellington $12 billion in savings already. With NZ having a population 5 times smaller than Australia, you can see how the guardians of the Canberra coffers are salivating. But critics say the poorest are the ones who suffer the most. What does an investment approach to welfare mean? It means you invest more in people you expect to be on welfare their whole lives and provide them with educational opportunities, counseling and job training from the start. Young parents, for instance, might get help with child care costs so they can study. The idea being you support people early on but save money in the long run as they move off welfare. How does the government even know who's going to be on welfare their whole lives? Here's where it gets all a bit Big Brother. They know because of harnessing big data. Using modeling insurance companies have harnessed for years. The Kiwis can work out what groups will have an increased lifetime liability and so focus on them. Groups such as, you guessed it, young parents, carers and students. Sounds fair enough, but there's a catch, right? Who? Talking to the ABC, the architect of New Zealand's welfare reforms, former Social Security Minister Paula Bennett, said the approach was a bit of carrot, a bit of stick. Quote, basically, the government will pay for you to get on the career ladder, but if you don't fulfill your social obligations, you'll be cut off. Social obligations? They sound sinister. These are the rules you need to follow to get your Centrelink payments. And there are lots of them. If you're an adult on benefits in NZ, you need to spend 30 hours a week looking for work. You need to take any job offer that is suitable, attend training courses and even pass drug tests. Wanting an overseas holiday? Don't even think about it. This is breaking the rules. And if you don't meet your social obligations, say sayonara to Centrelink. If you don't take up an offer of work, that's 13 weeks of payments forfeited. If you don't pass 2 drugs tests in a row, that's another 13 weeks gone. What about students? Students are allowed to complete their courses, but once they're done they're treated the same as any adult on welfare. To keep benefits, they have to treating getting a job as a job. What's Australia's plans? First up, Minister Porter said the government would plough $98 million in a try, test and learn fund. The details of this are a bit scant, but Mr. Porter said it was a BYO ideas pot of cash to encourage the non-government sector, including private companies, to come forward with ideas to transition people into employment. But does it work? Depends how you look at it. Wellington loves the program due to the billions it saved, but critics aren't so sure, saying its main metric is simply moving people off benefits. This can ignore the quality of work people are getting and the value of their unpaid work. For instance, a carer who now works part-time in a low-paid job may need to access even more government funding to pay for someone to help the person they care for. Meanwhile, in Auckland, homeless rates are said to have skyrocketed as people who failed to meet their social obligations lost all their government support. Will it happen in Australia? Already a key crossbencher, Nick Xenophon, has thrown some suggestions into the ring, saying Australian farmers struggling to find fruit pickers should be able to hire people on the dole. But a wide-ranging reform like this getting through a stable parliament in New Zealand is one thing. Passing Australia's almost hung parliament will be a whole other struggle. News.com. Our privacy policy includes important information about our collection, use and disclosure of your personal information, including to provide you with targeted content and advertising based on your online activities. It explains that if you do not provide us with information we have requested from you, we may not be able to provide you with the goods and services you require. It also explains how you can access or seek correction of your personal information, how you can complain about a breach of the Australian privacy principles, and how we will deal with a complaint of that nature.